All right, so this is one of those games where I only had to use one sheet, which is odd because a lot of stuff happened in this game that I wasn't expecting to happen. But I was expecting the Wild to beat Edmonton. I was not expecting them to beat them 5-1 again. But I noticed something throughout the NHL, because it seems like there's certain teams that just can't beat other teams. It's just the way it's been happening. Like, for example, Toronto yesterday, they lost to the Sabres, and they're 0-3-0 against the Sabres, and since they played them all season. We have not beat Nashville or St. Louis this year. Yet, at the same time, we have always beaten both the Kings and the Oilers. You could look at other spots, like the Coyotes. They somehow managed to beat the best team in the NHL twice. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just written in stone somewhere in like a cave or something, where certain teams are supposed to beat others and they occasionally change them every millennia or so. But that's just what's happening. And with that, I guess we were fated to beat Edmonton because we always seem to shut down Connor McDavid. And not Leon Draisaitl in this case because he scored. But McDavid didn't really do much other than that one assist on the goal. But to start from this game, it was Koskinen versus Talbot in net. And maybe Talbot gave some pointers on his former team. I mean, he was with the Rangers and the Oilers, but it was a little while ago. So maybe he had something to do. Maybe he didn't. But the Wild were also down a few men tonight. They were down Matt Dumba. They were down John Merrill, down Nick Delorier, who missed his second game. Merrill missed his sixth. And they would also end up losing Jordan Greenway tonight, which is not good. Both of these teams came into this matchup second in their division. Edmonton had 90 points. They were above the Kings in the Pacific. And Minnesota has had 94 points. They were second, still tied with St. Louis. Zuccarello could have broken the assist record tonight with an assist, which I'm not sure if he actually got it. I don't believe so. And Kaprizov could have broken the goal record with a goal. He actually did not get a goal tonight, which is kind of surprising to think about. Yeah, Zuccarello didn't have an assist and Kaprizov didn't have a goal. But they didn't really need those two to, show up in this game because 14:23 left in the first period, 6 minutes in, already it's 1-0. Freddie Gaudreau gets the scoring started for Minnesota. Basically, a theme for this game was Edmonton throwing the puck into the middle of their zone and just hoping one of their guys gets it. And instead, it would always end up being one of us in the slot, and in this case, Freddie Gaudreau gets it right in front of Koskinen and just moves around him and just scores. There's nothing Koskinen could do. That's just a bad giveaway by the defenseman. And it just continued to happen so many times for Edmonton in this game. There were like 8 times where that happened. A couple goals came off of it as well. What I also noticed was a weird stat is that the season series for this game, the shots in the season series leading into this one, Edmonton outshot Minnesota 72-48. Yet the goals, Minnesota was beating Edmonton 11-4 coming into this game. So it's ridiculous. Like, the fact that we still managed to give them a ton of shots and yet we are still dominating them. And Edmonton, again, continues to just fall apart in the first period. But that was the only goal that happened with Freddie Gaudreau getting on the board. And so shots at the end of the first period were 9-8 in favor of Minnesota. So you'd think it would be an even game, but most of Edmonton's shots were like way out in like bad angle areas and just ones that Talbot could stop pretty easily. So it wasn't really that much of a contest in the beginning. It seemed like it shots wise, but nothing really showed for it. Second period, they showed a stat that we are 93% likely to face St. Louis in the playoffs, and I'm fully expecting that. And we play them this next Saturday on ESPN in prime time. So if we can win that game, that could probably give us a huge boost of confidence because we still haven't beaten St. Louis. And this is also the point where Greenway had left. He actually left midway through the first period, but he did not return in this game. So the Wild were down essentially 4 guys and still managed to keep it rolling this whole time. What was also bad a little bit for Edmonton is that they were out with Magnus Puljujarvi. He was gone for a little bit, but he eventually came back in, so it was all fine. But Into the second period, 16:59. Kevin Fiala gets his 25th of the season. Assists go to Boldy and Kulikov. Basically, a great drop pass play ends up leading to Kevin Fiala just right in the middle of the slot, falling down. It's almost like the Mikkel Granlund goal from Game 3 of the Avs series in 2013. If Wild fans remember that. It's similar to that. Now, it didn't win the game, but it was essentially the same way. A flat shot on the ice and Fiala's falling down. He does the snow angel as he scores. So already there's Fiala who gets in. Now he's on the score sheet. Boldy is still doing good things since coming back. He scored a goal. Not in this game, but he scored one last game. He fit right back into the lineup like he should. And it was also another prevalent thing that made me want to re-sign Kevin Fiala because he hustles to the puck. He forechecks harder than almost anybody on the team, and he generates offensive chances. So not re-signing him would be stupid. It'd be stupid, and which sucks because we are cap-strained as hell next year. But if we can find a way to re-sign Kevin Fiala, it will be worth it. Because ever since Matt Boldy has come in, those two have just lit up the score sheet. They have been incredible. So I'm really hoping that Bill Guerin, common sense prevails for him, and I feel like it will. Because if that wasn't enough, he scores again with 10:20 left in the game, or in the second period. It was his 26th of the season. And this one was basically a steal off of the boards by Fiala. He goes from the goal line, parallel to the net. He fires it on net, and it still goes in. It sneaks in right past the shoulder of Koskinen on the near side, and it's a ridiculous angle. Oh my God, I don't even know how players can do that. I don't even know how goalies stop that. How do you stop that? Do you have to headbutt it out of the way? Do you just have to hope that the shot misses? Because it's a beautiful snipe the way he does it. Oh man, it's so good. It's so good to see Kevin Fiala. And it makes me, it reiterates that same idea. We have to re-sign Fiala. Please, for the love of God, Bill Guerin, if you ever listen to this, re-sign Fiala because you will not regret it. I swear. Man. And so I wrote down here at 8:41 that the Wild depth was showing because of all the injuries they had. Because, it's essentially depth scoring and depth guys that were basically mowing over Edmonton. And this period really showed it because Edmonton seemingly had no chances. Shots stayed relatively even, which is kind of surprising because they didn't set up in the offensive zone at all. They were running for their lives. They couldn't generate anything. McDavid did nothing. Draisaitl did nothing. Zach Hyman did nothing. Darnell Nurse did nothing. And so it was just pure domination in the second period. It was incredible. And then to add more insult to injury for Edmonton, Ryan Hartman gets on the score sheet, getting his 28th of the season with 6:48 left to go in the second period. Kaprizov gets the assist on that. And what's great about this goal, Kirill Kaprizov gets triple teamed. 3 guys triple team him along the boards. And still, he manages to find a way to get out with the puck, fires it in front to Ryan Hartman, who is falling down and just gets it right over the glove side of Mikko Koskinen. And so we are now up 4-0 with just completely dominating play. It's not even fair. It's literally not even fair. It's insane how much we are running over these guys. It is just nuts. And by that point, Edmonton had to take a timeout because Koskinen had let in 4 goals on 13 shots, which I don't really blame him. I'll blame him for the 3rd goal of the game. That was Fiala's snipe from, impossible angle. I'll blame him for that. You could technically blame him for the second one because it was a low shot on the ice that didn't even get off the ice. But at the same time, mainly it was just Edmonton's defense that kept falling apart and throwing the puck to the front of the net. It just kept happening. This game could have been like 10-0 had Koskinen not stood on his head. So Koskinen wasn't the reason they lost. If anything, it was the reason it wasn't worse. Okay? You put Mike Smith in there, it might be 8-1. Possibly. But Koskinen should not deserve the credit for the blame here. It's 100% on the Oilers' defense. They sucked. They looked awful. And the Wild took advantage of that. And literally right after that timeout ends up happening, Kyler Yamamoto for the Edmonton Oilers gets a tripping penalty. And not even 3 seconds after the timeout ends for Edmonton. It's just immediate. But if there's one thing the Wild didn't do right, it's power plays. Their special teams didn't pull through. It's not like you needed to because they were still up 4-1 or 4-0 at this point. But we didn't get anything on the power plays whatsoever. I'm pulling up the stats right now as I speak. Yeah, we were 0 for 3 on the power play. Edmonton was 1 for 3 on the power play. And I wrote right here, at 2:53 left in the second, there's been about 8 giveaways into the slot for Edmonton. So it just continues. It continues to be brutal for... It sucks for Edmonton because they can't get anything going. But of course, we'll take that. We'll obviously take that. That's going to be great for us. But then eventually we decide to, get lazy because we're up by 4. Boldy takes a holding penalty at 2:11, and this was a penalty that apparently Everson was pissed at, because what the announcers claimed it as was like they wouldn't call this if it's a game where it's like a 1-1 tie. They just say, it's iffy, but if it's like, in this case, 4-0, they're going to call it. And that's why Everson was pissed off. He's like, well, just call it both, or don't call it if it's not a penalty. So apparently Everson was yelling at him in the middle of a TV break, yelling at him so much that the linesman had to come in and help him out, which didn't really help matters. But yeah, at the end of the second period, surprisingly, shots are 19-19. It is dead even in shots, and yet Edmonton looks lost. They don't look like an NHL team. They look terrified out there. McDavid has no answers. Koskinen's got nothing. Draisaitl can't pull anything through. And that's only the second period. So my thinking was like, okay, there's still one more period of hockey. It is realistically possible for them to come back into this game because Edmonton has the ability to score in bunches, meaning they get 1, suddenly they get 2, they get, oh God, now they are almost tied. That could happen. It can definitely happen. Edmonton has been known to do it before. So I'm just thinking, okay, let's just finish this game. Let's just get through the third period. If we give up 1, that's fine. Although Talbot was playing pretty good in net. Not like overwhelmingly good, but he didn't need to be overwhelmingly good. He needed to be reliable, and that's what he is. That's what's good about Talbot. He is reliable. And what was funny about the 5th goal was that my TV lost connection as it happened. Literally, I lost connection for about a minute. Come back in, and they're announcing the goal that just happened. So I didn't even see the goal live, but apparently Ryan Hartman got his 2nd of the game, assisted by Ben and Kaprizov. Apparently it was a shot from the point, and once again, right in front, Edmonton defense just does nothing, and Ryan Hartman is right there picking up the loose change. He gets his 2nd of the game. So, just like that, it is now 5-0, and the Wild have pretty much essentially won this game unless a miracle happens. 15-10, Brandon Duhaime ends up taking a tripping penalty. This one was a pretty obvious penalty. It wasn't like the Boldy one where it's like iffy. This one was an obvious penalty. And so finally Edmonton breaks through on the power play, which is good for Edmonton because they, were looking lost the whole time. But Minnesota just, once again, the special teams just didn't really pull through as much. Again, it didn't need to in this case, but you kind of want to fix that going into the playoffs, because if you can exploit somebody on a power play or have your penalty kill just shut them down, that is incredible. But that's the one thing the Wild have struggled with this season. We can't get our special teams to work. But it doesn't completely bury us in this game. Power play goal was Draisaitl, his 51st of the season. He's right behind Matthews as far as the amount of goals he has. I want to say he's 2nd or 3rd in the league. He is nuts. And he's not Connor McDavid, which is absurd to think about. Assists go to Barry McDavid. It was at 14:21, so there's still a lot of time left. It's 5-1. Basically, good puck movement, and Draisaitl just fires it 5-hole through traffic, so Talbot couldn't really see it. Just don't take penalties. Simply, you don't take penalties, and you won't be in that situation. Then, the news of the entire hockey world today, essentially, what everyone was seemingly talking about. At 10:45, Evander Kane and Kirill Kaprizov get into some sort of scuffle. What actually happened at the start was Kyler Yamamoto, number 56 for the Oilers. He just shoves Zuccarello. Zuccarello whacks him in the back of his legs. Yamamoto doesn't go after him, instead goes after Kaprizov, gives him a shove. And then all of a sudden Kaprizov shoves Evander Kane. And Kane shoves him back. And then now it turns into a massive brawl where pretty much all 5 players on the ice are fighting each other. Everyone was seemingly going after Evander Kane. There was at one point where Ryan Hartman tried to go after Kane, skated back around, jumped back on the pile, still trying to go after Kane, throwing punches, accidentally hitting the ref. And both of those two ended up getting a 2 and 10. Evander Kane got an extra 2 because apparently he instigated it, which, yeah, makes sense, pretty much. And, of course, the big thing about that was Ryan Hartman giving Evander Kane the finger, which is what a lot of NHL fans apparently love to do. The game then afterwards just kind of drizzled out, and the Wild ended up winning after completely shutting down Edmonton. The shots on goal for this game were 28-23 in favor of Edmonton, and it did not seem like they had any momentum except for the one goal they had. So the Wild would now have a record of 45-21-6, which is equivalent to 96 points, still second in the Central and still tied with St. Louis. The next game, Thursday, 8 Eastern, at Dallas. So can't wait for that. But as for Hartman, he ended up flipping off Kane after getting separated from the scrum and then going to the end of the tunnel. Kane was also gone too. He was fined $4,250, which is the max allowed under the CBA. And Hartman said in response to the fine, "It will be well worth it," end quote. And so many people ended up Venmoing Ryan Hartman basically with just middle finger emojis and just saying, "Go Wild," and "We hate Kane." It literally, so many people have Venmoed him in the past hour or so that have just completely come out of nowhere. It may be enough to pay for either half or who knows, maybe the whole thing. But literally, it even got to the point where Evander Kane's ex-wife donated to the cause. She donated $200 to this. And she put it on her Instagram story with the caption, "Stay blessed." Jesus. It's she gave him $200. And literally, it has just become even more of a drama than it already has, because I've tried to keep up with the Evander Kane drama. I was originally hating Evander Kane, and then apparently his wife, who is, I'm not going to say crazy, but what's a better word for crazy? Because that's all I can think about. She did pay him $200 though, and I mean he won't send the money back. I mean, he's like, all right, sure, $200. Then let me pay my fine. But yeah, that's how the game ends essentially. And luckily, only had to use one sheet for it. So that is it for this one. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, then of course subscribe, like it. What am I saying? Oh man, I can't wait till I learn how to edit these videos, because once I do that, then they'll be much shorter. They'll be 10 minutes, and they will be much easier to digest. They'll be not like Steve Dangle, because I can't be as good as him, but I can try to do my own thing and try and see what we've got available. But like I said, like the video if you did like it. If you really liked it, you can subscribe, because I'll keep making these videos, and I'll keep following the Wild, because this team is way too much fun to watch. Even when they suck, they're still fun to watch. At least this year, because previous years before, but still good. And as always, I'll talk to you all later. See ya.